into all those details and the news here coming up in just a bit. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson. And if you are new to the show, we appreciate it. Of course, we got our flagship in East Central Alabama. We're working on that. There may be a second option coming up here fairly soon. Hopefully, we'll have news on that.
Maybe so.
But either way, if you can't catch us on 95.1 FM in East Central Alabama, make sure that you get the app for the station. It's called The Mountain. Go ahead and get their app. You can listen to us anywhere, or you can check us out anywhere. And you can tell your friends about this as well by going on to YouTube and checking out CRN Live.
Mm-hmm.
We're on now, right?
Yep. We are.
Matt knows how to do that.
We are hot.
I don't know how to do it. John knows how to do it. Matt knows how to do it. I know how to do this. They do the video stuff. I'm an audio guy. What do you want?
Hey.
All right. Last Saturday, doubleheader day out at Homestead Miami Speedway. Camping World Truck Series. Ty Majeski. Ty apparently liked getting into victory lane because he's done it again. He got his first win just a couple of weeks ago, and you know what? 67 of 134 laps led, over 4.5 seconds ahead of second place Zane Smith, and there he is. Got another win. I guess that does become addicting, though, because you being the driver, you would know this. Once you got your first win, you're like, I like this.
Well, saying goes, once you get the first one, the second one comes easier.
Yeah, but you like it that much more, don't you?
Oh, yeah. For
Suddenly
sure.
you got a taste, and you're like, yeah,
Sure,
I want to do that again.
For sure.
When the dust settled, the four who were ending up running because they're not racing this weekend. This settled the four that are going to run for the title. And they are. First, well, I'll tell you what. Let's get the top 10 from last week at Homestead Miami first. Majeski first, Smith second, as we talked about. Then Stuart Friesen, Ryan Priest, Corey Heim. More on him later. Ben Rhodes, Christian Eckes, Matt Crafton, Parker Kligerman, and Chandler Smith. The four eliminated, kind of surprisingly, John Hunter Nemechek.
This one, I'm honestly not surprised.
No? I would have picked him, I think, for the Final Four. Maybe not for the title, but I think I would have picked him for the Final Four because he and that truck have just been that strong over the last couple of seasons.
Well, last year and I'm going to just say it blunt, last year he choked it away.
I would agree.
And this year, he did the same thing again.
So right now, what John Hunter Nemechek needs to learn how to do is close.
Big time. Big time.
Go talk to Kevin Harvick.
Yeah.
Just saying. The other three drivers who will not be going for it, Stuart Friesen, Grant Enfinger. He just had a horrible playoffs, truth be told. And Christian Eckes, the four battling out in Phoenix for the 2022 Truck Series title. The final one under the Camping World title sponsorship, by the way. Ty Majeski, as we talked to you about. Zane Smith, Ben Rhodes, and Chandler Smith. Points don't matter anymore because the title goes to the driver who's ahead when the checkers fall. They don't necessarily even have to win the race. Remember that.
First man to the line, last man standing, however you want to word it.
There you go.
That's how they go.
Xfinity Series got things rolling in South Florida a little bit later on. The last Saturday afternoon, the dominant racer leading 127 of the 200 laps. Noah Gragson finished it off, holding off Ty Gibbs by a little more than half a second. That locks him into the championship four. Rest of your top 10 in the race following Gragson and Gibbs: A.J. Allmendinger, Daniel Hemrick, Sam Mayer, Trevor Bayne. Again, somebody give this man a full-time ride. Chandler Smith, Riley Earpst, Austin Hill, and Justin Allgaier. Well, Gragson and Josh Berry are locked into the championship four at Phoenix. We talked about Josh Berry, I guess it was last week. A little bit of a surprise. We weren't necessarily expecting him to come up there. That's not to say he's not talented enough. Obviously, he is. We just weren't expecting him to be able to adjust that quick.
Yeah, Berry did come around in a hurry. I mean, winning 3 races this year like he has already.
No doubt.
So he's I'm going to say he's my surprise threat.
I would agree.
For Phoenix.
Right now, the two that are in on points, Ty Gibbs, who's 30 points above the cutoff line. 5 over is A.J. Allmendinger. This is pretty tight. So 5 over A.J. Allmendinger, Justin Allgaier 5 under, 7 under Austin Hill. And then you got the two who really need to basically just win later on today. Sam Mayer 28 down and Brandon Jones 38 points down. But there's still a lot of ability to move here between Allmendinger, Allgaier, and Austin Hill. Martinsville, Tougher to pass in the Cup cars now that we got the Gen 7 car than it is the Xfinity Series car. But let's face it, track position is going to be everything because it's not an easy place to pass. I don't care how good of a car you've got. Martinsville's tight.
Oh, yeah, extremely tight. But out of the ones that are left, I'm going to, considering that he's, after qualifying yesterday, he's starting on the pole.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say Brandon Jones slips in.
Ooh, that would be a big upset.
Slips in.
That'd be a big upset.
And then...
Because he really... does he... He's really in a position where he's got to win, doesn't he? I mean, he's 38 down and he's 8th. That means he's got to jump over 4 drivers.
Yeah, because the reason I'm saying that is because he won the spring race.
I gotcha.
So I think he's going to be a threat again.
Okay. And I'm certain they brought that same car.
Probably
They still
so.
have it.
And I'm going to say, I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say Ty Gibbs pulls a John Hunter Nemechek and chokes it away.
Ooh, wow. That'd be huge.
And AJ slips in.
So you got 130 over and 138 under, and you're thinking that they're basically going to switch places.
Yeah, because Ty's going to crack. I feel like Ty will crack under pressure.
He is young. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's young. He has shown his ability throughout the course of the season to be able to do well. But the thing about it is we haven't really heard as much from him during the playoffs as what we did during the regular season.
Right.
So you think that he's kind of putting pressure on himself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And a lot of people, I'm just going to say it like that. A lot of people fail to realize Martinsville is one of A.J. Allmendinger's stronger tracks.
If there's an oval track that runs like a road course, it's Martinsville.
Mm-hmm.
And we know how good A.J. Allmendinger is at road courses. So, no, I have zero problem with that pick. Zero problem with that pick.
Yeah. It's going to be...
It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch for sure, but it's just, to me, it is just so weird to be at Martinsville in the fall with no trucks.
I would agree. With
It's just weird.
Last Sunday started in Texas, Formula One running its Circuit of the Americas. The Ferrari of Carlos Sainz sitting on the pole, but the popular Spaniard didn't make it past turn 1 before his day basically came to an end. He dove into turn 1, but the Mercedes of George Russell tried to cut under him when Sainz tried to come across him. He got turned, and it caused enough damage to his racer that he ended up limping it back to the pits. The team retired the car. Back out front, Max Verstappen took advantage and took the lead during the chaos there, but due to a couple of caution periods and some tire strategy, Lewis Hamilton, who still has yet to claim a win in 2022, that just sounds weird to say, which is why we continue to say it.
Mm-hmm.
He was out front, but in newer medium compound tires against Hamilton's older, harder compound tires, and Max Verstappen begins pursuit. He makes up over 12 seconds. Takes the lead with 6 laps to go, claims a record tying 13th win on the year. We'll get back to that during F1 News.
He was flying.
And honored Red Bull co-founder and owner Dietrich Mateschitz, who passed away the day before, which we'll talk about more later in F1 News as well. So your final top 10, Verstappen, then Hamilton, trailed by Charles Leclerc, Sergio Perez, George Russell, Lando Norris, Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel, Kevin Magnussen, and Yuki Tsunoda at the line. That was before Haas F1 lodged a protest about the cars of both Alonso and Perez involved in a crash during the race, based upon Haas's own experience with equipment being called into the pits because of it. Race stewards agreed that both cars had suffered enough damage, but despite not being called into the pits during the race, it did warrant a post-race penalty for Alonso, but somehow they deemed Perez's car to be okay. I'm not sure. Somehow it was within the rules. Either way.
That one was confusing.
They hit Alonso with a 30-second time penalty, dropped him outside the top 10 to 15th, moved Sebastian Vettel up to 7th, Kevin Magnussen to 8th, 9th went to Yuki Tsunoda, and 10th to Esteban Ocon. Now Alonso appealed it. We'll get back to that coming up during news as well. After the race, appeal notwithstanding, Verstappen, as noted, locked up the title after Japan extended his points lead, now 391 to 267 over Charles Leclerc. That is done. What's not done is the race for second place. Charles Leclerc, 267, 265 for Sergio Perez. Mm-hmm. George Russell, 218, 202 for Carlos Sainz. Lewis Hamilton, 198. That's not settled either. 109 for Lando Norris. He's pretty much all by himself, but we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Esteban Ocon, 79. 65 for Fernando Alonso. Valtteri Bottas, 46. And the rest of them are below that. That's just your top 10. The win by Verstappen now locks in the Constructors' Cup for Red Bull. This ends the streak that began in 2014 for Mercedes. But if you go back to 2009, there's only 2 constructors that have won Constructors' Cups. It's been either Red Bull or it's been Mercedes. That continues.
Yep.
Ferrari's in second, up 419 to 416 over Mercedes, 469 to 416 over Mercedes. Then you go down to the next race, Alpine and McLaren, 144 for Alpine, 138 for McLaren. And then the next set of races, Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin, Haas F1, and AlphaTauri, 52 for Alfa, Aston Martin 51, Haas F1 up to 38, AlphaTauri with 36, and Williams was 8. But again, all of that pens the appeal by Alpine and Alonso, which again we'll get back to later. And then that'll bring us to the Cup Series. They wrapped up the racing weekend at Homestead, Miami. And as in both of the truck and Xfinity races, it was kind of a dominant performance that claimed the day. And this time it was Kyle Larson who dominated. He may not be running to defend his driver's title, but for the first time in maybe ever, certainly longer than I can remember, we have a chance to have a driver be a title winner, but not his team owner.
To a split title, yeah. It's been, I think I've seen something. It's been since the 60s.
Oof. Hello.
I think.
Yep. Marks the potential. Again, first time in the Cup modern era. Split title, one to a driver, the other to another car owner. We'll find out in Phoenix about that. We'll keep you updated. Larson led the field for 199 of the 267 laps. Oof. That left Ross Chastain to settle for second, trailed by A.J. Allmendinger, then Austin Dillon with a nice run. Brad Keselowski with his best run of the year so far. Martin Truex Jr. in there, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Daniel Suarez. Some contenders did not have a good day. Notably, one Chase Briscoe. Car blew up, basically. Not good. Finished last on the day.
Yeah.
Joey Logano's locked into the playoffs with his win in Vegas, and then you got Ross Chastain in on points, up 19. Chase Elliott in on points, 11 up above the cutoff, and William Byron is 5 to the good. Denny Hamlin's 5 under. Ryan Blaney 18 under. Christopher Bell 33 down, and as we noted, Chase Briscoe had a bad day. 44 under. No way Chase Briscoe could make it in on points mathematically. He's got to win.
Yeah, pretty much Bell and Briscoe's in do or die mode.
I would agree with that. Of the two, no disrespect to Christopher Bell, what we have seen, and I get it, this is a much bigger deficit than what he had to overcome the last 2 cutoff races, but Chase Briscoe has found a way to get in to the next round, even though he was under the line coming into the previous 2 cutoff races. That being said, being a must win at Martinsville,
Right.
what kind of chance do you give Chase Briscoe?
Looking at it blind. No practice, no qualifying yet.
Sure.
I'm going to say it's 40-60.
So he's got a 40% chance to get that car into victory lane?
Considering what they've done, and we all know Stuart Haas can pull a proverbial rabbit out of the darkest, deepest top hat
They've done it before.
that you can find. Change that. I'm going to go 30-70.
Okay.
30-70.
All right. So Logano, we know, is in. Chastain, you good with him?
Yeah, Ross is all but in.
He has, I got to say, he has proven why he belongs in that car
He's
this year.
Yeah, I'm going to say Ross is all but in.
Okay. Chase Elliott. Dude, no, he drives for Hendrick. If there's one team that knows how to get around Martinsville, it's Hendrick. And Chase is that good of a driver. I got no problem him being in.
Yeah.
So that leaves William Byron. I get it. He drives for Hendrick.
And won the spring race.
And he won the spring race there.
And everybody knows that is a 16-point swing between Hamlin and Elliott.
Yep. Because Hamlin's 5 under.
Everybody,
but this is one of Hamlin's home tracks.
this is one of his better tracks.
And it is. You are correct.
So,
Ryan Blaney, we have yet to see win this year, which still surprises me.
I'm going to say Blaney doesn't.
Okay. And he would have to almost all but win. I mean,
Yeah.
again, 18 under, that's a big hurdle to jump, even though he's only got to jump 2 drivers.
Yeah.
It's still a big ask.
I'm going to say Hamlin gets in and
Which
wins.
would leave who out?
Elliott's out.
Chase is out. Interesting choice.
Byron has a strong enough top 5 run to lock himself in.
Okay. Again, we'll see what happens. This weekend's schedule begins the Xfinity Series. Got their last race in the round of 8. It's the Dead on Tools 250 from Martinsville Speedway. It'll be on NBC on Saturday, along with MRN Radio, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. And you might be thinking, well, what about pre-race? That varies between TV and radio, so we don't cover that. We just talk about the actual race coverage time, okay?
Right.
Again, for those of you who are new to the show. Sunday schedule, Cup Series running their final race in the round of 8, Xfinity 500. I find that interesting that they're the title sponsor of the series, but they decided to title sponsor the race for the Cup Series. That's also at Martinsville, NBC and MRN Radio. Call the action 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time. Then you get to Formula One. They're running the Mexican Grand Prix at Circuit Hermanos Rodriguez, 17 turns, 2.67 miles long. It's in Mexico City. Despite it being at a time when ABC could air it, they decided to let ESPN have the coverage. Starts 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. So as opposed to last weekend when we had one of the ultimate showdowns,
Yeah.
Cup Series on NBC, Formula One on ABC, and, of course, the king of all television sports, the NFL on both CBS and Fox, ABC decided we'll bow out. Not sure why. This is actually one of the more popular stops on the series as well.
Yeah, and I think ABC had it last year.
I thought they did too. Anyway.
I don't know.
Oh, by the way, while the Camping World Truck Series is off, the Camping World Drag Racing Series is not. They are going to get in the finals of the Nevada Nationals. This is their second to last race of the year. Las Vegas Motorsports Park airs on Fox Sports 1, starts 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Time. Again, only the Camping World Truck Series is off this weekend. Plenty to get to here. Silly season and the rumors regarding it obviously continue. So we've got that to deal with. Plus, we got to deal with appeals that, let's just face it. The Haas team, whether you're talking NASCAR or Formula One, heavily involved in those. So we're going to be dealing with that coming up as well. We got a lot to get to in the news. Potential new track being built. Talk about that coming up a little bit later. And oh, by the way, if you own the car and you know how to drive, don't you kind of want to get in the car that you just kind of now own?
Uh-huh.
We'll talk about that coming up in NHRA News. We're just underway on CRN. Welcome back into the show. We appreciate you checking us out. Steve West along with Matt Nicholson here on the final weekend in the month of October, which means we're getting towards the end of the racing season, boys and girls.
Yeah,
we got this weekend and next weekend in NASCAR. We've got Mexico this weekend, Formula One. Then we got Brazil and Abu Dhabi. So we got 3 races left in Formula One this weekend in Vegas. And is it next week or the week after that for the NHRA season finale in California? I can't remember whether they take a week off or not.
I think it's next week.
Okay.
I think.
Man, we're right down to it. Anyway, well, the car was on the track, but the driver was different. We noted it on the show last week, and as seen, or more specifically, not seen on the track last weekend at Homestead, Miami, was one Bubba Wallace, sitting out his 1-week suspension handed down by NASCAR. Apparently, though, while we don't know the exact details of what they did, 2311 Racing was not satisfied with what NASCAR did. They decided that more needed to be done. Denny Hamlin, the co-owner, along with Michael Jordan, told media over the course of this week that the team dealt with Wallace in a way that went, quote, above and beyond, unquote, what NASCAR handed down. Again, he didn't detail exactly what that meant when it came down to what they did and or said. Hamlin did say this, however, quote, he, Bubba Wallace, understands where I stand, where the team stands, the values that we want to present on the racetrack, and he didn't just represent it that well last week, talking about that situation a couple of weeks ago. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, we're very happy with his progress, and he knows he's still got stuff to work on when he gets out of the race car. He is expected to be back this weekend at Martinsville.
Sounds to me they probably cut his pay the rest of the year.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, this is one of those situations where, again, NASCAR set a precedent here with the whole Kyle Busch thing. They set a precedent again with Matt Kenseth. We talked about both of those situations. What was that, 2013, when Kyle Busch ran smack into Ron Hornaday in the Camping World Truck Series race that year, and he got sat for the rest of the weekend.
Right.
And then 2015.
15 was Logano and Kenseth.
Matt Kenseth gets kind of wrecked out of the race. They fixed the car well enough for him to go back out on the track, and I mean, you could tell.
Right.
It wasn't that the car broke. I mean, Bubba Wallace used an excuse which didn't work. But Matt Kenseth could have made up every excuse in the book. But I'm sorry, what Matt Kenseth did to Joey Logano was every single bit of what Cole Trickle did in Days of Thunder.
Changed my tires.
And went out there and just smacked the leader.
Yeah,
in this case, Joey Logano.
Yeah, he did.
So NASCAR set a precedent in sitting these drivers out. Kyle Busch had to sit the rest of the weekend. They actually sat Matt Kenseth for 2 races. They chose to only do Bubba Wallace for 1 race, which some people complained about. We could get into that argument, but either way, I'm good with it because it is a hefty penalty. You sitting out a race it's a smack by NASCAR.
Right.
It's not a slap on the wrist. I'm sorry, it's not.
No. Gracious, no.
Could they have done more? Sure, they could have.
Yeah.
But I said this last week. You're dealing with being probably one of the most high-profile drivers, whether you like it or not. You're one of the most high-profile drivers out there on the track. And, yeah, sad to say it has to do with his color.
Unfortunately, but yeah.
You know, one of these days I would love to be able to say, you know what, we're past that, and we just look at the talent. And Bubba Wallace has talent, and he's showing it. It is coming. He's coming to it, and Denny Hamlin mentioned it. We like the progress that we've seen this year. If you just look at his performance on the track,
right,
you can tell he's turned a corner. He's getting it.
There's no doubt he is.
But the problem is, and this is the same with Kurt Busch, he had to learn it. It's the same with Kyle Busch. He had to learn it. He's kind of still learning it, truth be told. And he kind of embraces the whole thing at the end of the race by getting up there and bowing to the crowd every time he wins.
Yeah.
But they have, over the course of their careers, learned that there are things that you can get away with, and there are things you can't. And Bubba Wallace hasn't gotten that far yet.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't use your race car as a 175 mile an hour slingshot.
especially this race car where we have Kurt
Yeah.
Busch, who's going to sit out the rest of his career, unfortunately, it looks like. I mean, yeah, he may be back for a race here or there and beginning next year, but his full-time career is done, and he's not racing the rest of this year.
Yeah, there's
And then there's the Alex Bowman situation, which we'll get back to in a minute as well.
yeah, this whole deal has got my flags flying here.
Oh, absolutely.
It has my flags flying high and standing straight out in the wind and seeing every stitch of color that's on that flag, which is really, really bright red.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is like waving it in front of a bull.
Yeah, a really big bull.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna wait till we talk about that one to give my reasoning why.
Yeah. But again, and I said it last week, I'm going to say it this week. Bubba, whether you got to do anger management classes or whatever, you got to get your emotions in check.
Yeah, you especially when you're doing what you're doing here.
Because the amount of money that's on your car has to do with your high profile.
Sure.
But the problem is that they'll be more than happy to take that money away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, M&M's went on top of a penalty a few years ago that Joe Gibbs Racing handed down to Kyle Busch. And M&M's basically said, we'll be ready to pull our sponsorship. And they almost did.
Yeah.
All those big name sponsors that are coming over, courtesy of Bubba and or Michael Jordan, they'll be more than happy to pull that sponsorship off. And they'll be happy to go to the other car if they want to stay with the team.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, they will.
So Bubba's on thin ice.
Yeah, extremely.
Got to get it under control. I understand that you'll get mad at certain times. We all do. How you handle that anger is what's going to define you from this point on. Because that spotlight that was pretty hot before is white hot now.
Yeah, it's beyond white hot. Because when you got with the companies, like you said, like DoorDash, McDonald's, Dr. Pepper, Columbia, Root Insurance, DraftKings, yeah. Don't think for 1 second one of them won't pull it up and say, hey, we're going to go to Tyler's car.
Yep.
Next
We
year.
want to stay with 2311, but you know what? That we can't do.
Yeah.
Can't do that. That doesn't work for us. That does not
Absolutely.
match our image as a company.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, from one penalty to another, Thursday morning, the National Motorsports Appeals Panel upheld NASCAR's penalties that were handed to Cole Custer and the Stewart-Haas Racing number 41 team. The penalty goes back to the Roval race when Custer moved out of teammate Jace Briscoe's way to let him get a clean pass, while at the same time basically blocking or getting in the way of some other cars and slowing them down. Because of that, Custer was fined $100,000, docked 50 driver points. Gene Haas is listed as the owner of the 41, and he was efficiently docked the same amount, 50 owner points. His crew chief, Mike Shiplett, suspended indefinitely, along with a $100,000 fine. The three-member appeals panel ruled that Stewart-Haas Racing indeed did violate the rule on, quote, race manipulation, unquote, in upholding the penalties. It also leaves Shiplett in limbo as to when he may be allowed to return. I guess you have to apply for reinstatement?
Yep, you do.
I don't know. That being said, Stewart-Haas Racing does have the option of a final appeals to the final appeals officer. If they do that, that ruling would be final. You and I are under the impression that they will do it, but they just haven't announced it yet.
Yeah, they, I'm pretty sure they will, and they probably, if they hadn't gotten anywhere with the first one, I'm not sure if they're going to get anywhere with the second one.
I don't know. It's a good question.
It's really tough to say,
Yeah, it is. I would agree with that.
but, you know.
But we're not done with the 41 car yet, because that soap opera seems to be continuing. And with what Tony Stewart has been saying here recently about him not really being all that happy with NASCAR, Kevin Harvick's penalty, then the Cole Custer penalty, there's actually some question as to what might ultimately happen with what's going on inside the 41 car. Now, Cole Custer is currently the driver. He's the son of Joe Custer, who happens to be the president at Stewart-Haas Racing. Gene Haas has said he wants Cole back in the car, but Tony has actually said, and it's been made public, that he would like to see Ryan Preece in the 41 car. Custer has one Cup victory to his credit, but that happened back in this 2020 rookie season. He does have an Xfinity Series win this year, and we have seen a couple of races, the Roval being one of them, where he's been competitive throughout the course of the race. But we just have not seen. We haven't seen what we saw out of Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe's rookie year versus this year, night and day. What we've seen out of Cole Custer, we haven't, that corner that we talked about Bubba Wallace turning, we haven't seen Cole Custer turn that yet.
Cole Custer hadn't even started inching the steering wheel towards the corner.
So Tony Stewart's got a point.
Oh, yeah, he's got a point.
But here comes Tony Stewart, who has never been mistaken for somebody who's delicate.
No.
I mean, I'm sorry, Tony. I love you, man. I think you're a great racer, and you've turned into a great owner of race teams and race series and tracks.
Yeah, for sure.
But, dude, you're a bull in a china shop. And when it comes right down to this, is this a rift that is going to begin to grow between what has been a quite successful partnership between Tony and Gene?
It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. Because, let me back up. When it's final of who's going to be in the 41 car next year, that will tell you who's got the majority pull.
I would agree.
Because whether anybody in Stewart-Haas, whether they want to agree with me or what, which we've said stranger things on this radio show before, and they've came to life.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't know who's listening to what.
True.
But with you having Haas F1 and Stewart-Haas and Cup, Tony Stewart is the sole face of that NASCAR program.
I could agree with that.
To where is Gene Haas is the sole face of Haas F1.
Sure.
Well, if we could, you could make the argument Gunther Steiner is.
Well, that's true.
But with the relationship that Joe Custer and Gene Haas have had for so long, I can see why Gene Haas said Cole Custer.
Sure.
But when you sign somebody to be your reserve driver in an F1 style reserve mode, like Ryan Preece, that has won in Xfinity, trucks, ARCA, if there's a modified race that ever comes to the Southeast in any proximity around the state of Alabama, whether it be in Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi, Georgia, or they do run at New Smyrna in Florida, and you see Ryan Preece on the entry list, you immediately pencil him in just like you pencil Kyle Busch into a truck race.
Sure.
And you've got somebody with that caliber of talent that really has never had with the exception of super speedways, really has never had a legitimate contending car. Now he's in a position where he could be in a legitimate contending car on any given week.
Sure.
I got to go with Stewart on this one. I've got to go with Stewart on this one.
Either way, Cole Custer's on a very short leash.
The leash is probably about 3 links of a chain.
If he comes back next year, and again, this is no guarantee at this point in time, but if he comes back next year might be his final year. You either got to put up or shut up. Fish or cut bait, as they say. Because family or not, they've got to be able to put sponsorship on that car and pay for the personnel on that car.
Yeah, they do.
And 25th to last place, don't cut it.
Nope. Not at all. Not at all.
Right.
I mean, they've got to do something.
And I think it was you last week that was talking about the fact that with Kevin Harvick basically stating that next year is going to be his last year in a car over at Stewart Haas Racing, that you were thinking that there might be a setup for changing some things.
If that does come to truth and come into light, if I'm Ryan Preece, I'm hanging on one more year.
Mm-hmm.
Because look what's waiting on you.
Sure.
You got the four ball with Rodney Childers sitting there waiting on you.
Mm-hmm. hard to turn that down.
I'm going to sit right here.
Yeah.
I'm sitting right here.
I'll be happy to wait one more year. I'll give you one more year.
Because
I'm sorry, Riley Herbst isn't that guy.
no.
Sorry, he's not.
If I'm telling you, I may be jumping the gun here, but I don't care. Right now, because with a little bit of foreshadowing with what happened in trucks this week, with the Ford losing arguably their flagship team,
Uh-huh.
now you have essentially one Ford truck in the field,
Yes.
which is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
Between trucks and Xfinity, you tentatively have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vehicles.
Tentatively.
Yeah, keyword tentatively.
Because there's still one big meatball, so to speak, hanging out there. And I hate to equate her to a meatball, but that's just the way it is. Speaking of foreshadowing.
I'm counting the car. I'm not counting her. I'm counting the car.
Well, and the reason I say that is because there could be a car added, depending on how this would come down.
Yeah, it could be
That's
a car
the reason
added.
why I say that.
Yeah, could be the car added.
Okay. Which we'll get back to coming up here in a little bit. Right now, we got to take a break. When we come back, we were mentioning it before, the whole Alex Bowman situation. Noah Gragson's highly involved in that. Noah Gragson's team for next year. And, well, this year kind of in the news. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about his effect and what's going to happen specifically with that 48 car, because there was some news out there that, well, was a little bit of a surprise, I got to admit. We'll be right back to fill you in on all that right here on CRN. Welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson along with you here on this weekend. Beautiful weekend, if a little bit breezy and potentially rain coming in our home state of Alabama. I don't know where you are, but hope you're having a fantastic weekend already.
Yep.
We noted last week here on the show that Noah Gragson set to move up from the Xfinity to the Cup Series beginning next year. Again, that's now old news. Going from Junior Motorsports to Petty GMS Racing to drive the number 42 Camaro. Saw a headline earlier this week. When does Dale Earnhardt Jr. get fed up with Petty GMS Racing? Now, why would they be fed up with him, you might ask? Well, following the notation that they lost their driver to Petty GMS Racing, his Xfinity Series crew chief, Luke Lambert, is also leaving Junior Motorsports, and he will become Noah Gragson's crew chief in the Cup Series next year. Lambert's experience has helped Gragson out this year. He has, he's this season tied a series record, winning 4 consecutive races earlier on this year. This also puts Lambert back in the Cup Series as crew chief, something he has already done. He did it for Richard Childress Racing, for example, back in 2011 when he called the shots. He's actually called the shots in the Cup Series for 332 races, has a win and a championship 4 appearance, both of those coming when he had Ryan Newman as his driver. Gragson, meanwhile, has been racing in the Cup Series since Alex Bowman suffered his concussion in a crash at Texas back September 25th. The thing about it is, Bowman was actually cleared to race on Thursday following an evaluation from noted clinical director of the University of Pittsburgh's Medical Center Sports Medicine Concussion Program. It's not something I want to try and say 5 times fast.
No.
His name is Dr. Mickey Collins. Hendrick, though, decided to keep Bowman out this weekend, so Gragson gets one more shot in the 48 this weekend before being allowed to concentrate solely on his attempt to claim his Xfinity Series title. Bowman, born in Tucson, Arizona, gets the chance to race one more time this year at his home track in Phoenix, Arizona. Jeff Andrews, who's the president and GM of Hendrick Motorsports, said, quote, due to the timing, everyone, even Alex, agreed that it was best to stick with our plan for Martinsville and allow the team to fully prepare for Alex's return next weekend. We're grateful for Noah for stepping in and doing a terrific job under difficult circumstances. First things first, I think what Noah Gragson has done is kind of like what Ty Gibbs has done. That's a lot of racing, and I get it. These guys love to race. If you had the opportunity to do it and you were a full-time Xfinity driver and you got called to do double duty to run for a Cup, you'd do it too. But it's a lot of miles over the course of a weekend.
There's my opinion, there's never too many laps you can turn in a weekend.
Okay. Even
Never
though
too.
there's really not as much as you can take anymore between the Xfinity and Cup cars?
Bingo.
Gotcha.
First point here. I think this may be lining up to where you see where Dale Earnhardt Jr. steps into the Cup Series with Petty GMS.
I see.
Because, honestly, this was a superbly smart move by Mike Beam, and Maury Gallagher, and everybody over there.
I would agree.
Superbly smart.
I agree.
Because you're keeping him with somebody he's used to working with, and he's won 8 Xfinity races this year, and arguably is a threat on any given weekend.
Sure.
No matter where you unload now.
That combination really did seem to click. It something flipped when it came to Noah Gragson, who's been talented,
Oh, yeah.
but he's been a wild child. One week he was a contender for a win. The next weekend he wrecked out on lap 3.
Yeah, I mean, he was, when he had Dave Ellens, he was a threat, but he was kind of more like, your phrase goes, a bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
Perfect one week, left field the next.
Right. He seems to have settled down and found a groove under Luke Lambert.
Yeah.
Something evened out, I guess, is maybe the better way to put it. Instead of being high and low, hot and cold, now all of a sudden everything's on the same level, and it's a high level.
And then one week be flawless. Next week, he's past the left field foul pole. So this was superbly smart.
I would agree.
You effectively now got the de facto Junior Motorsports and Cup.
So the question is how does Dale Jr. take advantage of that? No disrespect to Richard Petty. How much longer have we got the king in an active, even in a quasi-active role as a face of the franchise? Because no disrespect to Maury Gallagher, the bigger name is Richard Petty.
I could see Richard Petty going until his time's up on Earth.
Okay.
I could see that happen.
Okay.
Secondly, get a gulp of water for this one.
Yeah, I understand. That brings us to the question of, we've talked about this. Kelly Earnhardt's talked about it. Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s even talked about it. They're looking for the right opportunity to move into the Cup Series. They would like to expand out into it. But with what we have been seeing,
This one's it.
and the interest in several teams to get into it, it has severely raised the value of a charter.
Oh, yeah.
If you could buy into and become partners with a team, you don't have to worry about that because they got the charters already.
Yep. That they do. And if it's me, it's this one right here, because you're not having to buy your Hendricks, your flagship Chevrolet team.
Sure.
RCR is right there behind them. Not right there, but they're within sightline distance.
Yeah, they've always been number 2 on the Chevrolet totem pole behind Hendrick since Hendrick came in.
But this year, and I'm going to say pleasantly surprised. And it's been really with one car alone. Petty GMS is probably about 2 car lengths off of RCR.
And that'd be the 43.
Bingo.
And next year, taking out Ty Dillon, putting in Noah Gragson, and pairing Noah Gragson with the crew chief that has settled him down, that 42 becomes every bit the threat that the 43 is.
Yeah, I agree. It becomes every bit as dangerous as Eric Jones and Dave Ellens in the 43 car. Every bit as dangerous. All right. Secondly, and I'm flying my red flag here. Alex Bowman has the same angle crash Kurt Busch has.
Yep.
At a higher speed track.
Agreed.
Is out for, 5 races.
Yep.
Oh, excuse me, 6.
Well, yeah.
He was out the week before Talladega because Gragson had to jump in last minute.
Mm-hmm.
He was out before Talladega, and then this will be race 6. Kurt Busch has been out since June.
I know.
You can't I would love to see actual numerical point-by-point data from both of their crashes, and you cannot tell me that Kurt Busch's crash at a slower corner on a track than what turn 4 is in Texas.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that his crash was harder, knocked him out longer.
I'll play devil's advocate here because I have heard this. And Kurt Busch has raced longer than Alex Bowman has. Truth be told, we don't know how many times Kurt Busch has had even the slightest concussion. Because you got to remember, this has come into play here really over the last half a decade at the most. Kurt Busch has been running a heck of a lot longer than that. There's been, in all likelihood, times when he had a concussion when he shouldn't have been racing and he was.
Probably.
And we've heard over the course of time, especially in football, that the first concussion you have, the next concussion comes easier and it sticks longer. So I will say that that's the possibility. I'm not saying that that's definitely it. That's the possibility. But the other thing is I agree with you on this. Again, you're talking about since the summertime, since we were talking about hot and humid temperatures and sweating and going, my God, when's fall going to get here? And the shortage of Toyota cars and the way that everything was going over at Joe Gibbs Racing and their inability to figure out a way to get a deal done with Kyle Busch. And all of a sudden, here comes Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, here comes Tyrone.
I mean, you and I have been questioning this the whole time. And I get it. It sounds like we're conspiracy theorists. But in a way, there's a whole lot of smoke here without there being a fire. There's got to be a fire somewhere.
And at the rate that he's been spilling everything from Toyota and Gibbs, Kyle Busch will spill it.
Oh, you know it.
And he'll spill it pretty soon. I got a feeling he'll spill it pretty soon.
Yep.
Because
I mean, he doesn't have anything to worry about at this point in time. He's got the safety net.
No, he's got it. I mean, he's there. But you can't tell me that this wasn't some sort of a plan to go ahead and get Gibbs seat time to be used to these cars because they know he's going up. He's coming up next year.
Yeah.
They know it.
Yep.
So, and then it's unfortunate that you're going to knock Kurt out of that.
Yeah.
But
which is why he said during his retirement speech that he would be willing to come back for a few races next year.
True.
Because I wouldn't want to go out the way he's going out.
Because if this comes to light, it's a sad thing to say, but how can you legitimately see a team operating when they have more pull than the manufacturer? It's been clearly obvious over the last few years, 10 years.
Yeah.
Painfully obvious. Okay. It's probably truth be known why Tony Stewart got out when he did, how he did, and left in the manner he left. Okay. Carl Edwards, Daniel Suarez, Matt Kenseth, Eric Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Toyota has lost Noah Gragson as well. They're losing Brandon Jones.
Yep.
Let's see who else.
You could argue they lost Haley Deegan.
Yeah, you could argue they lost Haley Deegan. They've lost KBM altogether. They lost Chandler Smith. Chandler Smith's going to Chevrolet next year.
True. Yeah.
So, with the pipeline and the stranglehold that JGR has over everything, quite frankly, I'm surprised Denny Hamlin's lasted as long as he's lasted. Quite frankly, I'm surprised.
You might be onto something there. Speaking of crew chief situations here, Richard Childress Racing has decided to make a change as well. Austin Dillon heading into 2023 with a new crew chief.
This one raised my eyebrow.
Keith Rodden has been tapped to take on the role. Rodden's been working with General Motors recently as their motorsports competition group general manager. He's helped Chevrolet teams with their test and practice sessions, hoping to help them improve upon their race finishes. And before that, he was a crew chief as well. He's actually worked for numerous teams aligned with Chevrolet over the course of his years. He's been a crew chief or engineer at Hendrick, Evernham, Richard Petty, Team Red Bull, remember them, and Chip Ganassi Racing. Rodden's set to take over for Justin Alexander. He's going to be, quote unquote, kicked upstairs to become the Richard Childress Racing Director of Vehicle Performance. Rodden helped Chevrolet teams perform so well over the course of this season that they clinched the 2022 manufacturer's title, marks their second straight and 41st such in the company's history in NASCAR, and they've still got 2 races left this season. To this point of the year, so far, Chevy drivers have claimed 19 wins, and that's more than Ford and Toyota drivers combined, led by Chase Elliott with 5 wins. Keith Rodden does have something to say about that. You and I have talked about this situation when it comes to Austin Dillon. I know he's got wins, but largely I've been unimpressed by what I've seen out of Austin Dillon. What does Keith Rodden coming in as his crew chief against a Justin Alexander do for Austin Dillon?
If Austin Dillon, how do I word this? If Austin Dillon will drive without the pacifier in his mouth.
Oh.
And Keith Rodden will be that voice to sit and say, shut up and drive.
Keith Rodden will be the one to yank it out.
Yeah. The 3-car could come to life in a hurry.
And considering the fact that they're getting one of the best drivers, whether you like him or not, he's one of the best talents that the Cup Series has ever seen in the 8-car in Kyle Busch. There is pressure on that 3-car to perform.
Huge amount of pressure. And if it comes to life like I think it can, RCR may be back in a big way.
So we talked about RCR taking a back seat. They're a 2-car team versus a Hendrick 4-car team. Childress, though, until they came to that terms on the buyout with Tyler Reddick, had been talking about making that a 3-car team. I mean, at one point in time, this was a powerhouse franchise. It was neck and neck, 1A, 1B with Hendrick in the Chevrolet ranks. Is Childress finally getting to the point where he's ready to make that fight again?
With the puzzle pieces he's putting together, it seems like it. It strongly seems like it.
Time will tell.
It will definitely tell.
One more note, speaking of Chevrolet, Beard Motorsports. They're set to soldier on in 2023. Kind of got the same plan. They're going to run exactly 6 races for 2023. Be a part-time team, kind of like they were this year and were last year. But they're going to do it at kind of a variety of tracks. They love the super speedways, but they're going to spread out just a little bit. First of all, who's going to drive the 62 next year? Well, Beard has chosen Austin Hill to drive all 6 races.
Not a bad choice.
Is this his debut in the Cup Series? I think.
No, he ran Michigan this year.
Okay. So he's got 1 race of experience under his belt. Is Austin Hill the best choice? Is he the one that you would have chosen out of everybody within the Chevrolet camp?
Right now, yeah,
Okay.
I would have.
All right. This will add to his full-time deal in Xfinity for the aforementioned Richard Childress Racing. Following attempting to race into, remember, they got to race into it. They have no charter. They'll try to race into the Daytona 500. They'll come to Talladega, where they're going to have to qualify in. They're going to try the Chicago Street Race, along with every other team that has any kind of a Cup aspiration. So they're going to have to qualify there. They're going to try it at Michigan, Chevrolet's backyard, back to Daytona, and then again when we come back to Talladega next fall.
There will be teams at that street race in Chicago that pull IMSA drivers out of cobwebs just to get in the race.
Sure, everybody and their brother is going to be watching this situation because this is the first time ever NASCAR is running a street course.
I could see teams like Live Fast adding a second car for that race.
Money Team.
I could see, yeah, they will show up. They'll show up. I could see Spire adding a 3rd car to go run.
Truth be told, if he's healthy enough, I can see 2311 adding a 3rd car and putting Kurt Busch in it.
Yeah,
I could see that.
yeah. I mean, that's not far-fetched.
Nope, not at all. Everybody and their brother is going to try to make this race because, again, the spotlight's there because this is the first time ever for NASCAR on a street course.
Yeah.
Hour 1 down. When we get into hour 2, we're going to talk a little North Wilkesboro Speedway and the support series that are going to be racing along with them that week. 2023 season's so close. I mean, let's face it, they're going to be down in Daytona in January.
Yeah.
Can we just go ahead and start? Oh, well, no, I guess we probably ought to figure out who's going to win the 2022 titles, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, 2023 All-Star Race, as we noted, going back to the historic North Wilkesboro Speedway. Matt and I are going to be making contact with some people. It's going to be much more than just an all-star race, by the way. Plans are to make a week of it, since NASCAR is also celebrating their 75th season. Plans at this time, not only to have the all-star race, 2 concerts, throwback pricing on many of the offerings in the concession stands, and no less than 5 days of on-track competition. So it's going to be a week, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Joining the Cup Series, the CRA Super Late Model Series, the Cars Late Model Stock Tour, the Cars Pro Late Models, and then the newly rechristened Craftsman Truck Series. Got to get used to that again. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the Cup Series All-Star Race, all of those going from Tuesday to Sunday. By the way, we talked about throwback pricing on the concession stands. What do we mean? They detailed it. You want a hot dog? It's $2. You go to, like, no disrespect to where the Atlanta Falcons play, but you go to Mercedes-Benz Dome in downtown Atlanta, a hot dog is going to set you back the better part of $10. Cokes are $2. Bottled water's $2. Beer's $3. I'm assuming they're having a cutoff.
This is
as to when they'll stop serving beer.
This is reminiscent of Eldora right here.
I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Very reminiscent.
Thank you, NASCAR. This is wonderful, and I can only hope that when we get past the 75th anniversary celebration, and you guys should continue racing at North Wilkesboro again, that these concession stand prices, I would expect, will go up, but hopefully they don't go up much.
True.
And then there's this. You got some video on this. Cup Series Managing Director Brad Moran appeared on SiriusXM Satellite Radio's NASCAR channel Tuesday of this past week and outlined some of the changes that are expected to come with the Gen 7 stock car in 2023. New hood, new ventilation louvers that are embedded in them. Not really sure what exactly that's going to do.
Nothing.
He also promised that extensive testing has been done and continues to be done on changes to the rear clip and the midsection of the cars to make them safer. In other words, a little less rigid for the drivers. Moran has said that testing has been fairly constant, even as the new cars hit the track back in Los Angeles to begin the year at the Busch Light Clash. He said that they're looking at this car, as noted, on the outside, but also on the inside, specifically for the driver's seat and the head surround, see if they might be able to do anything there. But he talked about crash testing, and you saw video of one specific crash test on the rear of the car without the bodywork.
Yeah, at a 33 mile per hour impact, which is
painfully slow because, let's face it, you go faster than that down a pit road, but it's a start, I guess, is maybe where we're going.
It's quite puzzling. But, and I'm pretty sure my 8-year-old nephew could have figured this out way before now. The way you look at the video here, from basically where the backside of the center section is, the cockpit area, to the rear of the car, current design versus updated design. Everything is in place on the updated design when you look at the transaxle, the rear suspension, the fuel cell, the rear bumper, calipers, brake setup, rear end cooler, transaxle cooler. God, what rear end cooler? That's what I'm gonna call it.
Name it. You got it.
Boys and girls, they collectively removed that many bars. That many.
He's showing
2.
Yeah, he showed 2.
2 bars. And it made probably...
Made a world of difference.
Let me play it here and watch it, see.
It made a world of difference because we were looking at it through our break here, and even I noted this in the fact that it was so much more rigid with those 2 bars that were in a V. They come together against a wall on the firewall, basically behind the driver, and spread out and go towards the outsides coming together just in front of the wheels, basically. And the amount of difference when the car hits the wall, even at 33 miles per hour, you can tell the dissipation of energy automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what was, complain about them as much as you want, whether you're talking about the COT or the Gen 6 car that we just got rid of at the end of 2021. They figured out how to have crush zones on these cars that absorbed the impact in a wreck.
Yeah.
And with those 2 bars installed, that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
It was so stiff. It was so rigid. It was so built like a tank, to borrow your words from when you saw these cars at Talladega up close and personal, that there was no place for the energy to go except to the one last thing, in this case, a person who had the ability to move inside the car, and that's the driver.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with those 2 bars removed, you have a crush zone. You have an energy impact zone in these cars that it's not going to dissipate all of the energy. The driver's still going to feel it, but it's not going to be as bad.
No. From the current design, it probably, I'm going to say moves, it probably collapses 6 inches at the most.
But it's 6 inches more than what it did in the car as it currently sits.
The updated design that they have, it probably collapses nearly 2 feet.
Mm-hmm. And
that's a huge difference.
Every little bit will help when it comes to the safety of these drivers and
Yeah.
absorbing the impact in a way that the person does not have to absorb the impact.
For sure.
That's huge.
But 2 bars.
Let me get to what Moran also said about this. The driver's seat and the head surround. What, if anything, do you think they can do there? Is it more cushioning? I don't see that as being a big help. I mean, effectively, what you're going to do at that point in time is, would it help for you to lock the driver's head down? Because at that point in time, all they have is, they've got fairly restrictive movement with a Hans system anyway.
You're essentially locked down now.
Yeah. You've got enough to where you can actually turn the head enough to be able to see.
But the way they
out the little mirror here in the rear view.
The way some of the seats are, you got range of motion to where it's probably for maybe 4 inches one way, 4 inches the other way.
Okay.
To where you can see your side mirror that's on the A post, or to glance up or glance at an angle, however you want to look at it, to your rear view mirror, pending which vehicle you're in.
Sure. I don't see why you would try and tighten that down anymore.
You got to have a little bit of room there.
I would think.
Because the side to side motion, maybe 3-4 inches.
I would say tops.
At the most. And this may be something that we can pose a question to a Camping World Truck Series driver that we're working on getting in here pretty soon.
Okay.
He may be able to shed a little bit more light into it.
All right. We'll look forward to that. To the Xfinity Series, where we mentioned Chevrolet won the Cup Series manufacturer's title for 2022. They already claimed the Xfinity Series title for 2022. Did that 2 weeks ago when I think it was Noah Gragson, actually, that claimed the company's 500th career win.
No, Josh Berry.
It was Josh Berry.
He got
Thank
it in
you very
Vegas,
much. In Las Vegas. Jeb Burton, meanwhile, has been something of a journeyman as a NASCAR driver. His journey is set to take him away from our motorsports after this year. He told the team he'll finish out the season in their number 27 Camaro and then released a statement saying that he's currently working on 2023 racing plans, adding, quote, "As this season ends, I'm looking forward to the road ahead. I have great partners and fans and look forward to making an announcement in the near future about our plans for next season." He's got a chance at a decent ride. His Xfinity Series career holds a win, 13 top fives, and 31 top 10 career finishes. But at some point in time, don't you have to look at it and go, dude, I've got a ride. Having a bird in the hand or having a seat is better than thinking I might get a better seat.
He's got to perform better on the track to get a better seat.
I mean, I don't know where he's going to go.
I don't know where, unless he's going to go somewhere and drive a truck. One, I don't know where he can go in Xfinity.
No idea.
Unless he's about to be one of these surprise JGR. Hey, look who we got. Great. Here we go again.
Well, I mean, they need somebody. Because what had been an overload, a glut of talented drivers in that pipeline has suddenly turned into a dearth. They don't really have a whole lot in the pipeline in the JGR set.
No. But, I mean, I still don't know what happened to his deal at Kaulig.
I don't either.
Because
that blows my mind.
That
to me was
puzzling.
His best opportunity and his best place to be. And when that fell apart, and it really wasn't Jeb's doing in a lot of ways. There was something going on with the sponsor, which was what, Nutrient Ag?
Nutrient Ag, yeah.
And then they turned around and came back. Not on a full-time basis, I'll admit, but still, they came back after Jeb Burton was ousted from the car.
Yeah, and they went on the 16 car, Allmendinger.
The whole thing kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, it's puzzling, but if you're going to keep your career moving, get somewhere, sit down, hone your craft.
And Howard Motorsports isn't the worst place to be. There's a lot worse teams out there, in my mind.
Let me see here.
While you're looking that up.
It was...
Okay, go ahead. What are you looking up?
There's a Twitter feed that is ran that's called Couch Racer. All right.
Okay.
It's actually ran and done by two pretty prominent spotters in NASCAR.
Okay.
Somebody said something about, Jeb Burton leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And the comment was, there it is. I would leave too if I wasn't getting paid.
That would do it.
Yeah. Why are you not going to pay if that's the truth, why are you not going to pay your drivers that are sitting in the seats of your cars?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and they're got their sponsors. Their sponsors are on the car doing what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we not paying the men sitting in the seat or the women sitting in the seat?
The feeling is going to be more we heard about this story. As we go along.
Probably so.
All right.
Probably so.
To the Truck Series Tuesday down at Daytona. GMS Racing, as we talked about them, they are not aligned with Petty in the Truck Series, but they are going to soldier on in 2023 with their Truck Series program. They've tapped Daniel Dye to pick up and drive the number 43 Silverado full-time next year. Dye's all of 18 years old, joined GMS Racing in 2021 in a part-time role in the ARCA Menards Series and ARCA Menards East. Parlayed that into a full-time role in 2022. Got a pole, 13 top 5, and 17 top 10 finishes. But he just missed out on a win. He is second in the series points. GMS Racing said that they would announce who his crew chief and crew will be, along with sponsors for the truck soon, and added they want to expand their Truck Series operation in the near future as well. Not the best move, according to you?
Why are we in the habit of taking people in of all things ARCA and going one season and done? Oh, let's go to trucks.
His performance wasn't enough for you? And I'm legitimately asking the question. That performance wasn't enough?
What's been the trend that you've seen of people that went from ARCA to trucks within 1 year?
Falling flat on their faces.
Boom.
Answer said.
Flat on their face because you have, even though you have from a drive line,
perspective, you basically have the same setup, but you got two different vehicles here.
Sure. Absolutely.
They drive totally different.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Okay. So why are we yanking somebody up that's got one full season in ARCA that has run probably at the biggest field he's run against is probably 30 vehicles?
Hey, Daniel, no pressure.
There you are.
Weight's on your shoulders, dude. We'll see what happens. We mentioned it a little bit before. David Gilliland Racing. They saw an opening and they decided to take it. It's left Ford in a bit of a quandary as well. We'll talk about all the ripple effects of this and talk about racing on ice in a stock car. It's actually going to happen. Not in the Cup Series. We'll detail it next. NASCAR heavy, but I promise we'll get to some of the other series here that we usually do. But first things first, David Gilliland Racing, as has been rumored since Kyle Busch announced he was going to switch his Kyle Busch Motorsports from Toyota over to Chevy. Well, Toyota's been seeking a replacement operation. They found it in DGR. It's just the first change. They're going to go from Ford to Toyota. They're also undergoing a name change. They're set to become Tricon, Tricon Garage, which will field entries in the ARCA Menard series as well. The plan is they're going to run 3 full-time trucks, 1 part-time entry. How many ARCA Menard series entries he has planned, we don't really know yet.
Probably be 3 or 4.
Okay. Gilliland has used Toyotas before, 2018 and 2019, with Tyler Ankrum winning their first title in the ARCA Menards East Division back then. The drivers for Gilliland and Tricon next season are the returning brother tandem of Tanner and Taylor Gray. Taylor won't actually begin full-time until Circuit of the Americas. That's when he turns 18, which means that until then, he can't, for example, run at Daytona or Atlanta.
Or Vegas.
The third full-time driver, Corey Heim. We said we'd have more information on him. Toyota development driver. The fourth truck going to have several different drivers over the course of the season. Now, plenty of ripple effects here, obviously. One of them is the aforementioned Haley Deegan. She is a Ford development driver. She is not going to be back with this team next year, something we noted on the show the past couple of weeks. She herself has said she's seeking out opportunities. Tricon, how did they come up with that name? It's actually an amalgamation, Tri and Icon. They're going for 3 different titles next year and in the coming years, driver, owner, and manufacturer, while involved in 3 different industries, the racing side, the fabrication side, and apparently somehow the transportation side. I guess they're working with other teams when it comes to that.
I don't know.